The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Go Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast live. This is episode 124, I believe. We are live as always on YouTube, and we're going to have a great discussion tonight with some great friends. Before we get going, I do want to do a quick shout out to everybody. Most of you know that about a year ago, my dad had a stroke and was basically left paralyzed and living as a prisoner within his own mind. And it sounds sad, but he passed last Wednesday. So thank you to everyone that did know that and reached out, text, called, messaged me and all that. It means the world to me. He's in a much better place. He hasn't been able to eat in 6 months. So he's up there having a steak and a nice cold Coca-Cola. So life is moving on, but he's in a better place. But once again, thank you to all my friends and everybody out there who did reach out. It means the world to me. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about a new initiative, a new campaign. And we've got some friends out here from a couple of different organizations that I respect and I think the world of these people themselves, but their organizations as well. We talk about mental health and suicide prevention and being able to talk about mental health and all that and bringing that as part of the gun community and kind of owning it. Before we get going, I do want to say to everybody that's live, if you have a question for any of us in the panel, please use the comments below, tag one of us, and we'll make sure we ask those questions. If you're watching in replay or listening to it in podcast, use the comment section below and we'll get those questions answered as well. As we get going, let's say hi to everyone from the great state of Texas, my home state. I don't live there now, but it is my home state. We have the tactical leprechaun himself. What is going on, Clover?
So if anybody knows Noah, right, could you please tell him to swing by and pick me up?
You're saying that you need an arc right now. Are you saying it's raining just a bit?
I'm so sick of the rain.
It's one of those that, it's been raining here for about a week. We got another week of it to come. It's been like 40 degrees and raining, and welcome to wintertime in the South, I think is really what it is, you know.
I guarantee you.
Yeah. From holdmyguns.org, our good friend Sarah Albrecht. How are you doing, dear?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me tonight.
Love having you as always. And this guy is one tough customer. If you know this guy, he's anywhere and everywhere. He doesn't do a whole lot. He doesn't travel very much, but he tries. He's trying to be a part of the community. But from Walk the Talk America, we've got Rob Pincus. What's up, Rob?
Hey, everybody. Appreciate you guys having me on tonight to talk about this. Really excited about the new campaign. And, you guys have all been really supportive of everything Walk the Talk America does. Obviously, Sarah and Genevieve are doing some great stuff with Hold My Guns. There's a lot of overlap with what we're doing there and always been very cooperative and collaborative. And just about an hour ago, Mike Sedini announced our new Cause a Pause initiative, new campaign that's really simple, really grassroots, really voluntary. Obviously, no regulation, no government, no mental health, professionals even, that some people are still wary of interacting with mental health professionals. Is something we can do inside the community that I really think, might save a life or two. So I appreciate you guys having us on to talk about it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about it here in just a second, and I'll play the video that Walk the Talk you guys put on your IG about an hour, a little over an hour ago to launch the campaign. But I love the fact that, you've got two organizations here that are doing their own thing with Hold My Guns and Walk the Talk, but we're all gun people and we're all in it for the right reasons. And I love the fact that the collaborations are starting to happen because I think it's going to help everyone. When you've got two separate entities talking about basically the same thing, they might come at it from a different avenue, but they're talking the same thing. And then we get together and kind of spread that message. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you to both of you for both your organizations, you and Mike, and then Sarah and Genevieve. Everything you guys are doing, from people out here that aren't directly involved with your organizations but are watching from afar, I want to say thank you because you do help. I don't know if you guys really realize the lives that you're able to touch, and the way that you guys are touching lives actually saves lives, which was a beautiful thing. So thank you to both of you.
Oh, thanks, Trey.
So about an hour ago, Walk the Talk America over their Instagram debuted their new Cause a Pause. And before I play the video, Rob, why don't you talk to people about what the initiative and the campaign really is?
Yeah, this is really, it's about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks ago. I taped that first video, I think the one you're going to show. And then I went out to some people, including the three of you who were on the show with me. Obviously, Mike Sedini was the first one to see it. And I just said, this is something, it's too simple, too easy. It grew out of the protect what you love idea. So a few years ago, I started talking about the idea of protect what you love, hashtag PWYL, being a motivation to train, being a motivation to carry your gun, being a motivation to stage your gun where you can use it to defend yourself. And, that's work. We all talk about it. Like going to the range and practicing is work. It takes effort. It takes commitment. So the idea was to think of whatever that thing that you love, that you wanted to be able to protect and cherish. And that might be your kids. It might be something obvious, your parents or your spouse. It might be your job. You really love your job. You're passionate about it. It might be riding your motorcycle on Sunday. It might be you're going to have a kid someday. It might be that your kids are young and you want to see them graduate high school, or you want to walk your daughter down the aisle. Whatever your thing is that you need to motivate you to go out and practice, or to put the gun on that day, or to stage the gun where it's not going to be able to be easily accessed by those same kids, but at the same time you can get to it quickly to defend them. Do what it is you need to do. So I did a bunch of videos through PDN and other resources. Had some magazine articles come out. Wrote about it in a couple books. This idea of protect what you love. Well, the work that Mike really inspired, as far as Walk the Talk America, when Mike came to me a couple of years ago, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, and said, I'm thinking about getting involved in this. I don't think we do enough. Would you join me? Would you be interested? Do you think it's a good idea? Everything we've done with Walk the Talk America really has gotten my mind involved in this mental health space. And it's just one more place where firearms owners can be more responsible, where firearms owners can be more proactive, where firearms owners can make a difference to reduce the negative outcomes that are involve firearms. And this is one really obvious, easy way where there's an overlap between my work as a trainer, as an educator, with the protect what you love idea, to, what is it that's going to cause a pause? What is it in that impulsive moment? Because, I've learned so much about the nature of suicide, especially suicide with firearms, inside the firearms community, inside the firearms, the first responder community, the veterans community. It can be a very impulsive act. It's not something that people sit around thinking about for days and write the letter and sort of set everything up and do all that. It could be because of an arrest. It could be because of a breakup. It could be because of a job loss. It could be alcohol or drug related, just judgment issues. It's a very impulsive thing quite often, and that's one of the reasons we see that people who survive suicide attempts very often are still alive 10 years later. Like over 80% of those people, they get the help they need. They deal with the problem. They sort of come out of that crisis moment. So the idea of cause a pause is to give you a moment, just whatever hesitation it takes to keep you from going into that safe, chambering the round, to attempting the suicide with the firearm. And it's literally that picture over here. It's like some of these shelves are empty. I've actually moving the Western HQ. We're shutting this down. This house is under contract. Closing's coming up in a couple of weeks. Very excited about that. But in packing up the room, it was literally taking that picture, which is a picture of my older daughter from back when I was still full-time law enforcement. I don't know, she's probably about 8 in that picture or so. Wearing my uniform shirt and hat, sitting on the stairs of a place I had in Northern Virginia. And I took it down off the top shelf, and it kicked over in my mind this kind of a combination of ideas. So real quick, I shot that video real rough, just played with some of the speed effects, slowed some stuff down, sent it out to Mike. Mike was like, wow, that's powerful, cool. I get it. He instantly got it, sent it out to some of you guys, and you guys all got it. Pretty much everybody that's seen it, maybe 20 people before today, it's been very simple and very easy to see where it resonates. And then the cause a pause, kind of rolls off the tongue. It's an easy hashtag. So that's the campaign. So let's maybe let people see the video, and I'll get maybe your thoughts. You guys can share your thoughts on the idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna screen share this real quick. I don't know. Can you guys see this or no? I don't know if you guys can. Okay, share a tab. That's what I want to do. Share a tab. I'm not very smart. I'm a Marine. Can you guys see that okay?
There you go.
All right, so here we go. lagging. So yeah, it's I'll play it again here in a little bit, but it was when you first sent this to me in the we had a little group chat that a bunch of us are in, but when you sent that to me, I was like, oh wow, that's awesome. And I think everyone kind of, like you said, we all got it. And there might be some people out there that may not get it right away, but I think it's a beautiful thing. I want to bring Sarah in real quick. And coming from the Hold My Guns, and the discussion kind of happened very quickly. Maybe we could all kind of collaborate on this and utilize this as a solidarity message. When you hear Rob talk about using this for Walk the Talk America, what are some of the ways that you think that it kind of could help your audience of Hold My Guns?
Well, first of all, I absolutely love the idea. I love the simplicity of it, and I love, there weren't even any words, no voices or anything in that video clip, and it was just a very powerful, simple message. I really loved it when Rob sent it over, and I'm definitely in solidarity with this campaign. I am always excited to pass on things like this to others, and I'm excited that with Hold My Guns, that we have a platform to discuss these things and to really help to get the word out about awareness like this. I love the simplicity of the hashtag Cause a Pause, and simple things. They resonate, and they really make an impact on someone. And it's very important to think about these things too when you're not in the midst of struggling. And so I encourage anyone who's out there listening, to think about if I needed to pause, if I were ever in that situation, what objects would I put around my firearm that would just cause me to look at them and say, you know what, tomorrow will be a better day, or I'm gonna call my friend. I'm gonna see if we can talk about this. And there's so many things that people could use to create a pause there. I appreciate what Rob was saying too, that many times it's just impulsive. And I've lost a number of friends to suicide, not all with firearm, but not everybody had warning signs. Sometimes there was a situation where there's just a devastating event that happened. And so any way that we can just get the word out to say, hey, cause a pause, that might resonate with someone. Sometimes, in this space, it's very easy to just kind of pigeonhole with one particular message. And I think that you don't necessarily get to reach, you want to reach a many different people. You want to reach a wide audience. And the truth is that any of us at any time could be in a place that is really dark, and we might not realize, we might be fine one day and then something bad can happen. And so I always like to encourage people to plan ahead. Just like if you create a living will, right? You don't know if what tomorrow is going to bring, but if you have a plan, just on that off chance that tomorrow is going to be a bad day, you have something in place to distance yourself from harm. Even in a will, you make sure your family's protected. So I love that idea of pictures of family. And not everyone will use a picture of family. Some people might use maybe an award that they received, or maybe a letter from someone, or a marriage certificate or something like that. But the idea is just simple and beautiful. And that is, whatever resonates with you, to put something, a memento there that would help.
Yeah, I did a video I'm going to share here in a second that Rob finished editing. And one of the things he said is maybe from the military aspect or something, a lot of people in the military we use challenge coins, and it's something to remind us of our brotherhood and all of that stuff. So I did a video. I'll see if I can share this real quick. And I did one kind of using some pictures and some of my challenge coins from the Marine Corps. So let's watch this for a second, if you guys don't mind. Well, I'll tell you what, it is lagging pretty bad. Well, I'm not really sure what's going on. I think it's maybe causing too much on my computer system, so I don't know.
You want to describe it, Trey? Because I have seen that video. I think it was pretty good. Can you describe what's in it?
Well, basically, what Rob wanted me to do was the first scene is running to my desk where I have my handgun sitting there on my desk. So I run into the desk and I kind of reach down, and I noticed there's a picture of me and my daughter when she was 1, kind of holding hands, walking.
Mm-hmm.
Then I scroll up and I've got a picture of my wedding, of me and my wife being married. And then I look over and I've got on top of my desk, I've got several challenge coins from the Marine Corps. And I kind of zoomed in on that. And then I kind of scrolled back down my hand and start backing up. And it was one of those things to where maybe that resonates with some of the veterans that said, yes, your family's there, but you've also got brothers and sisters in arms that you've served with that can be there to help you, or you're there to help them. And sometimes it's bigger than just you. And I think, and I don't put words in your or Rob's mouths, but mental health, as far as it comes to veterans that I've had experience with, is almost like they feel, and I don't know about this, and maybe it might be just a general thing in life, but one of the things is they feel like they're alone. And sometimes they just need to know that you're not alone. There's always someone that can help you. There's someone that's going through the same thing that might have some common things that you can work each other out a little bit. But I think the biggest thing that I love about what both of your organizations are doing is making it okay to talk about. Mm-hmm. And it's not this nasty disease. And it's something that everyone goes, whether you're a veteran or not, it doesn't matter. Every person in this world has something that they have a dark time in their lives. And whether or not they contemplate suicide, it really doesn't matter, but they're going through times that are difficult. And they need to realize you can talk about it freely. You don't have to be ashamed about it. And you certainly are not alone. And I love that. I want to bring Clover in real quick. And we joke about Clover because Clover is one of those people that truly needs to have sunlight, or he starts feeling like really weird and he gets sick sometimes. And it's something as simple as that. So, when we talk about mental health, it doesn't necessarily have to be PTSD. It can be anything that puts you in a mental state that just makes you feel not right. So when you hear about the initiative like this, Clover, what does this mean to you, and how do you think that it could help people in general?
Well, I mean, I think it's so simple. I mean, when you think about the concept of taking a step back and taking a breath, right? All of us that were parents, we get it. I mean, how many times have you had to take a step back on your children and count to 10 because you were just fixing to beat them to death, right? So it's a really simple concept, or you're dealing with somebody and they're just totally aggravating, and in your mind you're counting to 10. You're like, I need to just hang on a minute. This will pass. This feeling that I'm having, it'll pass. And so, I believe that a lot of times, we're just feeling the pressure of the moment. And so when we can find something that takes a step back from that moment, and I totally agree for that, that there's subtleties in the difference of the way that people are going to approach this. It's going to be family. Some it's going to be, think about potentially competitive shooters and potentially some type of a significant award, as Sarah mentioned, or something like that. Even something as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about maybe even things that make you laugh, right? Laughter is really powerful medicine. So what if you've got a favorite joke or a favorite meme or something that you just can't, you're rolling on the floor every time you see it? So why not have something like that close by to maybe change that in mood, your mood a little bit, and that in turn give you that pause that you need to take that step back, take a few breaths, and realize that what you're about to do is not worth what you're about to go through.
Absolutely. Rob, Sarah, do you guys have anything that you want to add to any of that?
I think that's the main thing, is that people are going to find their own way to express this. That was the same thing with Protect What You Love. It really doesn't matter. No one's going to judge. No one should, maybe no one ever knows what it is that motivates you to practice train. Nobody knows what it is you're going to stage. Like, we've got like the Walk Talk America gun vault green safe, right? Like that was the suicide prevention safe. It's very symbolic. It's very obvious, if you had one of these. these are meant more for, to inspire people to talk about mental health in the public space. But, just having something like this, putting a WTTA sticker on there, putting a WTTA band around your holster that you keep inside of that quick access safe, anything like that, or probably it's going to be something more personal. And what I would encourage people to do now is moving forward, what we're going to do with WTTA is just like we have, hundreds, if not 1,000 by now, pictures of people wearing these bands in all sorts of different settings and all kinds of different environments that we shared through social media. Now I want to share whatever it is people are putting out. So here, like I've got, my daughter's picture on top of the gun safe. This is the one with the quick access safe at the top. A picture of that, hashtag cause a pause, put it in social media. If your thing is a challenge coin, cool. Take a picture of your challenge coin next to your gun, hashtag cause a pause. Picture of your wife, picture of your mom, whatever it's going to be. Maybe it's a picture of the local high school that your kids are going to graduate from someday when you get married, when you have kids, 20 years from now, that's going to happen. But that's what causes the pause for you. I want to inspire people. And that's really, what Mike has done for me with Walk Talk America is made that the mission, is not just instructing and educating, but really just being the example and letting people see that, this is something that we're all doing. This is something that it's okay to do. It's something, in fact, that everybody should consider doing. And that's what I want to see. So that's it. Everybody who's watching, and I get it. Like, you may not want to put up the picture. Like if you put up a picture of a challenge coin, it doesn't matter what that challenge coin is. It's the idea of it, right? It's the idea of spreading what's going on. I told people, take a Post-it note and put protect what you love on it. Put it on the side. I've been saying that for months, until we kind of this epiphany of cause a pause and making it something more tangible. But maybe that's enough for the social media campaign to get other people to think about this. Right? Hashtag cause a pause on a Post-it note, stick it on a gun safe or stick it on your holster, take a picture of it, put it up with a link back to WTTA. We're going to be putting up a lot more video. We'll also put up an article at the blog at Walk the Talk America explaining the concept. And, there's no money here. There's no, ownership. It's a concept that we want everybody to be spreading around. And, ultimately, if people need more help, they can get those free screenings at WTTA.org. They can find help through Walk the Talk America. You can find help through NSSF. You can find help through your local gun range. You can find help through holdmyguns.org. You can find help wherever you might need it. But I just want to make it okay to talk about the fact that it's okay to need help.
Yeah. And you don't have to take a picture of your firearm either. Anytime you put out a new idea like this, you always have people who have objections and excuses for why it won't work or whatever. And to your point, you could put up a sticky note that says cause a pause. But the idea is solidarity and to get people thinking about it. And that's something that just every organization can get behind. And even, it's important to remember too, not everybody is in our gun community. So it's something that people in other communities can get behind too. Everybody has moments like that, whether they're in our direct community or not. So it's really something that anybody can get behind. And I applaud your efforts with that, Rob.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, I think it's also something, like you said, this isn't just a gun community thing. Yes, these organizations that Hold My Guns and WTTA, there's other great ones out there that are within our culture and our community to kind of help us. But ultimately, this is for anyone that's having problems. This is for anyone that's seen a dark side of life. And it doesn't matter if you're part of our community or culture or not. We're all in the same community. That's human. We all know someone that's had a tough time, whether they are gun owners or not. It makes no difference. I'm not going to, discard them because they're not part of the gun community. Anyone that I know that has a problem, and that's what I love. And what we were saying is, if you want to find it, walkthetalkamerica.org, holdmyguns.org. If you're on my website, go to 2A links, and both organizations have links on my homepage. They're everywhere. Go check them out. Well, I want to ask you, both of you, Sarah and Rob. I just got a text from a viewer out there, and this is an interesting question. It says, can we make it mandatory to see WTTA and Hold My Guns in the military before they get out the military, just like they do for ex-cons getting out of prison, get them ready for the world again? And before you get out of the military, you have classes you have to go to. Have either one of you guys thought about maybe somehow, some way getting involved with the VA or anything like that to where you can maybe expand what you guys are doing through them?
Yeah, in fact, Mike attended an event, kind of a roundtable that happened out at the White House that the VA put on, and he's going to be out in California, I think next week or the week after. I'm going to be teaching over in Europe, but he's going out to California as a follow-up with some people from the VA from that first meeting. So it's, the education and awareness, there's no doubt that the first responder community, could benefit from this when you go into the police academy. There's no doubt that when you go into the military, and certainly when you're getting out of the military, that transition training would benefit from all of this awareness. But it kind of comes down to what you said, this is for everybody. This is definitely, I use hashtag Make Earth Better. These are all Make Earth Better projects, and we all have those areas that are, closer or further, closer to us or further from us. And what I would encourage is for people to find as many ways as they possibly can to share this information in the communities that matter to you. I do have a lot of people that push back, believe it or not, against, WTTA's efforts inside of the gun community. And it's like, well, why are you making this a gun issue? Suicide affects all kinds of people. Just make it a worldwide issue. And I get it, but I'm a gun community person, so I care a lot about the gun community. This is where I want to do my work. But certainly the VA is one that we're talking to very specifically.
I think for that question specifically, I kind of just want to underscore what Rob was saying about, helping to get the word out and having options for a variety of different, like for every community. It's a human thing. I don't think that it should be mandatory. I always cringe at that word. It really needs to be, when we say, oh, you're really at risk because you have to have, mandatory education in these things. That does make me cringe a little bit. One of the reasons why I started Hold My Guns is to help protect rights. So anytime I start to hear the word mandatory, my spidey sense goes off a little bit. However, I think it's a great idea to make that information available to people. And I think that that's something that can be done so that, people can pick up information from the VA or from wherever they are at their own discretion and not have to make anything mandatory. And, but we're working with mental health professionals, for example, that have said, hey, this is a way that we can really reach out to our clients in a new way, as opposed to like, in the case of confiscation, like instead of just having, we can present an option of a voluntary taking a break from lethal means if we're, switching up medication or something like that we are concerned, and we can say, hey, here's a local Hold My Guns location. Please consider storing firearms if you have any in the home. And it just creates a conversation that is empowering to patients, that is underscores self-determination. And we're really excited about that word. As we're interacting with mental health professionals and medical professionals, they're saying like, if they can create a situation where they can, talk about this in a way that empowers their patients, then the outcome of their treatment will be so much better. So I like to shy away from mandatory as much as possible in all areas of my life, but having that option, really can make a difference. So yeah, I'm all for information like that getting out through VA and through other avenues as well.
I want to bring Clover in, and do you have anything you want to add or ask at this point?
Yeah, I want to pose not so much a question, but I guess an idea to Rob as I was sitting here and kind of thinking about stuff. And was any thought given to, I don't want to word this, any thought given to the everyday mental health aspect of this campaign as opposed to just crises aversion? And what I mean by that is you're talking about putting this stuff that potentially can be a mood booster, a mood enhancer, that sort of thing, putting these stuff close to objects. I mean, for those of us that carry every day and stuff like that, right? You're talking about putting these things close by where we're actually taking a look at these every day and multiple times every day. So was any thought given to how this could help perpetuate better mental health overall, not just in a crisis situation?
Well, I mean, again, it's kind of like we could make Earth better in a million ways, or here's a really narrow focus. Here's a project that I want to push forward and let this then trickle down in all those other areas. And that's really what this is. To me, this is very specifically about letting people be their own intervention. Essentially, what like sober Rob, not like just like cogent, clear, lucid thinking Rob is going to get in the way of impulsive, panicked, distraught, overwhelmed Rob I don't even know when, 6 months from now, right? 6 years from now. I don't know what it's going to be that's going to put Rob in that place. But I now, in my lucid, calm moment, am going to get in the way by taking this, challenge coin from a law enforcement unit that I'm really proud of having worked with. And one of these guys told me I saved his life when he gave me this coin. So I'm going to put it over here. And now in that's lucid Rob being the intervention for distraught crisis mode Rob at some point in the future, right? Utilizing that as the token or the emblem that interrupts that impulsive moment of the potential suicide attempt. And that's really what this is. And at the same time, and I've got a tattoo that reminds me to just take a breath and pause every once in a while. It's really easy to see. I wear my WTTA band. I've got those other things. And absolutely, I think, when I was, kind of all the cliches, right? When I was full-time police officer, I had the picture of my daughter in the patrol car. Absolutely, this is bigger than just stopping an impulsive suicide attempt, but this is focused, cause a pause for Walk the Talk American for me, today, this week, tonight is focused on that.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, to your point, in this particular situation with Walk the Talk and with Hold My Guns, we're talking about suicide prevention. But I always encourage people to surround themselves with things that are positive. We're not talking about for our daily things. I love wearing this little bracelet that my sister gave me. It says XOXO on it. It's hugs and kisses from my sister. And it reminds me to pray for her and her family and, just to pick up the phone and call her if I'm thinking of her. So I think we should always surround ourselves with things that remind us of people we love and things that are important to us. Last year I painted my office and my walls are really right now they're kind of blank, but even this conversation and your point just reminds me hey, maybe I should put up some things that just make me smile when I walk into the room. And many times we just, especially those of us who are very business minded and entrepreneurial and things, we can be very practical and focused. And sometimes it's almost like a little chore to do things that are flowery and fun, but that's something that we can all think about doing is how can we surround ourselves with positive images, so that it's just part of our lifestyle and our culture. And honestly, I just a side note here, I think that the world really thinks of the gun culture that we're kind of a bunch of mean people and just a bunch of curmudgeons, which I am, but on the other hand, we can, I admit it. I even have my pipes sitting around here somewhere. But anyway, I can play that part. But really, we're not it's just something I love about the gun community is that our cross section of culture, there are people who actually care about important things in life. That's why many of us carry a firearm in the first place, is because we want to protect those things that we love and we want to exercise our freedom. And that's actually a really fun and joyful space to be in. So anytime we can encourage that liberty-based lifestyle that is just really the epitome of what it's like to be alive, I want to foster that. So great point, Clover, is, we should always be surrounding ourselves with positive things, but especially in areas where we do need to have a pause. And, for people who might be listening, who might not have a firearm, maybe they're, maybe they need to have a pause for something like, razor blades if they're cutting themselves or where they store their stash, hey, I'm not going to light up today. I'm going to cause a pause and I'm going to get some help. I'm going to take advantage of, some drug treatment or something like that. So this is something that people can use in a variety of situations, not just in the firearm community. Again, we're human and that's the community that we're in. And anytime we need to take a pause, whether it's putting on a bottle of alcohol or in our firearm, it's a wise thing to exercise wisdom in that and to cause a pause where we need to put some restraints down.
Yeah, you're talking about the objects, and Rob was showing his challenge coin and his bracelet, and you're talking about your bracelet. I wear certain things every day. I can't tell. This is a bracelet that several of the Marine brothers and we all made similar ones when one of us died a few years back, and we all wear this. Always the Walk the Talk, but this right here are just some. I think my daughter got it for $1, but they're just red and gold.
It means a lot to you.
But she got to go wear the Marine Corps colors, and she got to me. These are probably 5 or 6 years old, and they never come off. And it's one of those things because I just remember, my daughter and stuff like that. So I think that it's a beautiful thing when you talk about, and everyone's been talking about getting help and knowing that you're not alone and having something to live for, no matter how dark your life can get. Someone out there has been there. I love the old story about the guy in a hole, and his buddy walks past the hole and jumps in the hole, and he's like, "What are you doing? Now we're both stuck." He goes, "Yeah, but I know the way out." And that's just a beautiful story. There's one of those that, you've always got someone, and it may not be someone that and I want to talk to Clover real quick, because Clover, I followed his lead. And Clover was one of the first ones for the Walk the Talk America pamphlets to take him to his gun shop and to start spreading the word at his local gun shop. And I want to bring Clover in real quick and ask you, when you're at your gun shop, you're there almost every weekend hanging out and doing some work for them. But, do you ever have that conversation, or do you see people interacting or taking those pamphlets? And do you ever, if you do see that, I'm going to ghost you here, asking multiple questions at one time. If you do see that, do you ever strike up a conversation with anyone that does grab those?
It does happen occasionally that you'll get, and usually the conversation starts I'll be honest, usually it starts in a negative way, right? And I think we're all met. We're talking WTTA, whether we're talking Hold My Guns. Sarah and Rob both understand exactly what I'm talking about. They see it as, oh, well, we should keep this in the shadows, right? We don't want people thinking that we've got mental health issues because now they're going to pass all these regulations and no, as human beings, I think we have a responsibility to take care of each other, and we have to have a support structure and everything in place. And people outside our culture and the community, they're not going to provide a safe haven for us in those situations. That's just not going to happen. So who does it fall upon? It falls upon us. And so typically what starts as a negative conversation usually ends as a very good conversation once it's over. But you mentioned reaching out to the gun shops, and I totally recommend, whether people get a hold of Rob or Mike and get a hold of the flyers, print them themselves, get the gun shops to print them. Hit up your local dealers and get them to, they're obviously getting with manufacturers, and a lot of those have come on board with putting these flyers. But, we can hit every manufacturer. We can handle how many people buy used firearms, right? And you cover all of those bases if you can get a local gun shop on board. And I found that they're more than willing. It's a piece of paper that they hand out. How difficult is that, right? And especially if you're willing to provide the papers. I mean, how many guns? Some gun shops, I guess, local gun shops sell a ton of firearms in a month or so. Most of the ones around here, not so much. I mean, you could do, 100 copies or something like that a month for your local gun shop. And if they run out that month, they run out, right? But the biggest thing as far as a conversation starter, and Rob spoke to it, I think, earlier, is the bracelets. I mean, and that's become a thing that's almost not really talked about much anymore. Maybe that's by design, I don't know, but that's definitely the biggest conversation starter that I see in day-to-day life. It comes from the bracelet.
Yeah, I want to bring up a comment, and I want to let everyone kind of jump in on this, but Just Plinkin out there said, suicide is personal. You don't know what's going on in someone's head. If they want to do it, you can push them over the edge or help, depending on that person and how you approach it. And that is very true. I want to bring in Rob real quick and say, if someone does approach you, this is for anyone out there that might be listening. If someone does approach you and ask for help, through your experiences and all that, is there a certain way to maybe kind of test the waters before you dive into that conversation? Because maybe you can try to help them, but you end up pushing them over the edge, like Plinkin says. Is there something that you've found that might be a good way to start that conversation?
That's a very common concern. It's a common fear. I will tell you that universally, 100%, I have never had a mental health professional support that approach or support that concern, or even like couch or caveat or indulge the concern in any way. I can't be more adamant about that. Everyone from the mental health professional side has assured me, Mike, anyone else I've heard ask this question or bring this up, that the worry that you're going to say, hey, are you feeling okay? I want to make sure you're doing all right, is going to force, make someone think, oh wow, is my life that bad? You think I'm suicidal? Maybe I should commit suicide. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's a statistical like non-existent concern from the mental health side. That's not Rob saying that. That's me saying it seems like a reasonable concern to me. Like I wouldn't want to bring it up to somebody and push them in that direction or make them think that I'm judging them or something. And it's just not something that the mental health professional community seems at all worried about. In fact, just the opposite. You know, it's the very, very much concerned that people don't bring up the topic. They're afraid to bring up the topic. It doesn't get talked about, and then people don't get the help that they need. So I would, you know, that's been my experience, having understood the concern, having even felt the concern myself, talking to mental health professionals, and I definitely defer to them on that. So, you know, yeah, obviously, you know, you could. It's not like you're Hannibal Lecter in this, you know, cell next door trying to talk somebody into it. Like you're there to help, right? You're not putting it in their head. You're putting in their head the fact that you help. You want to help, that you do care, that you are concerned, that there are resources available. You know, I think that's probably the obvious part is, you know, at some point, if you're going to bring it up, bring it up. Mm-hmm. Don't talk around it and assume the person's reading your mind and your intentions. Like I would just say, be explicit about what your concerns are, or the fact that you want to help somebody, you're there for them if they need it.
Yeah, I liked what you. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna go to you, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. And I have been in situations where I believe I've done everything, and even people have gone to get help, and they've still chosen to take their own lives. So it's one of those things where do what you can, but understand, you know, unless you put them in. If they're in a situation where they have, you know, they're in a padded cell or something, and whatever, like. Sometimes no matter what you do, that bad things are still going to happen, but that doesn't mean that we should shy away from reaching out to people and saying, because honestly, there have been so many more times that someone said, thank you for asking how I'm doing. You know, that might just be like, hey, I'm listening. I hear you saying that you're having a hard time. Can you tell me more about that? Wow, it sounds like things are really bad. Tell me, honestly, you know, have you ever thought about taking your own life? Is that something you want to talk about? There are ways to say it. I think sometimes, though, people are well-meaning, but they say really stupid things. And so I think part of education is not to say simply like, oh, yeah, it's fine to talk to people, because to some people who hear that, they might, you know, I mean, oh, my goodness, sometimes people say things like, well, if they want to take their own life, here's my gun, just go ahead and do it. That's not helpful. I just want to hurt people, you know, when they talk that way, because it's like you're not being sensitive. So when we say it's okay to talk to people, we need to put a caveat on there to like be wise, be understanding, be caring, connect people to resources. Don't mock people. That's not really talking to people. So I know it sounds really obvious to say that, but many people have kind of like what Clover was talking about a moment ago. You know, they might see something about suicide prevention and immediately they have an objection. And, you know, to those of us who've been through a heartache like that because of suicide, you know, to us, it's like, man, this makes sense. Why would you ever want to make fun of someone who wanted to get help? But to people who have never been through it, or maybe they're still dealing with anger because they lost someone and they just don't know how to express it, you know, they have an objection that comes off as being really hard-headed. And so in those situations, you know, as I talk about hold my guns, I'm like, you know, hey, I understand those objections, but, you know, what would you say to someone who's struggling? Like, how would you reach out to them? And I try to flip it around and get people to actually have a real conversation about how can you help someone? And that's really, a lot of times those walls come down and then you find out, well, yeah, actually I lost, you know, my brother or my mom or whomever, you know, and then you realize some of this objection's coming from hurt. And then I can have the opportunity to even say to them, hey, you know, have you ever thought about maybe talking to someone about this? It sounds like you've got a lot of hurt going on, and I understand why you do. You know, we're all in this together. So it's whenever you hear those objections, and they are out there, I hear them every day. I mean, we're doing something that has never really been done before. So we're going to hear objections, and I understand that. But I love the opportunity just to dig deeper and to make a human connection. And I encourage people to do the same.
Yeah. The first time I'm going to go to Clover because he actually raised his hand in the private chat, which is, you know, I'm not used to like.
Whoa. Look at that.
So I don't even know what to do with that. No. But the first time I was touched with suicide, I was 16, one of my friends. And he was ultimately like the all-American kid. I mean, he was tall, dark, handsome, athletic. I mean, had everything going for him. And excuse me. And a bunch of us never saw this coming until after, and we look back and it's like, yeah, I kind of, you're 16, you're not used to that stuff. But even after that happened, we're like, yeah, we should have seen something. So I love the fact that we talk about all the time. If you're having problems, seek help and go talk to someone. But someone mentioned up there, some people don't even realize they have help. And sometimes it's important for us, if we notice someone that seemingly is having a bad time, to approach them. Don't wait for them to approach us, and take the proactive, because they may never get to the point where they feel comfortable seeking help. But if we reach out to them and say, look, I noticed that you've been a little off the last couple of weeks, and is everything okay? And you open that door for them, they're able or willing to walk in. So I love the fact that people need to remember also is it's okay to seek out people that we think might be having problems and try to initiate the conversation. So now that Clover has been so polite in the back room, raising his hand, yes, sir, what can we do for you?
I'm sorry, I'll just butt in next.
No, I love it. I'm used to it.
Well, I mean, I'm not the guest, right? So, no, I mean, I before I get to my thought, I mean, I want to follow up on what Sarah said and just make a statement. And it's one thing that I hear said a lot when we're talking about suicide and stuff. They talk about that's the chicken way out, or that person's really weak. And I challenge you to this. I mean, I can guarantee you that we know the suicide rate with veterans, and many of those guys are far from being weak or chicken, right? So we need to seriously, if you're a person that says that, you need to think about that aspect of things, and it really has nothing to do with it. On to my thought though, when we're talking about approaching somebody that's having issues, and this is an overarching problem in society that I see that we've got to combat. We've got to retrain ourselves and retrain those around us, that we've really got to pay attention to our fellow people in the community, in our neighborhood, in our families and everything else, to first of all spot potential unhealthy trends in activity and stuff like that, to be able to identify these issues. And then once we're able to do that, then I think that rather than going to somebody and say, hey, I see you're acting erratic, you want to talk about potential problems or something like that, in the spirit of this pause, making people pause. I mean, maybe we bring up something that's good in their life, right? Maybe we bring up and we talk about, hey, how are those grandbabies doing? Or, we talk about, hey, how's that? I've seen you got a job promotion last week. How's that going? Right. And reiterate, right, the positive things that are actually going on in their life, and get them thinking more about that than the rain outside, for example.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yep. Encouraging people to, yes, very profound, thinking about things that are positive. And that's a wonderful thing about the cause of pause, is that they're positive things. And so it's exactly that. A lot of times people consider taking their own lives because they feel alone, or they feel like there's nothing positive in their lives. And so it's not just even like, oh, I better not hurt myself because look at all these things that are important to me around it. It's more like, these are beautiful reasons to live. These are positive things. It means a lot to me. So it's a very positive campaign, but I love how you just take it into a practical way. To when you're talking to someone who is down, to help them think about positive things and to change the way that their mind is thinking in that moment. It's perfect. Good job.
Yeah, I want to bring Rob in and say, okay, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the videos that have been made, but when this whole idea came about, what would you like from our community, the people out there listening, watching on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? Is there something that we can all do to help, yes, make the videos, I guess, use the hashtag, take the pictures, but is there something that, in your mind, you thought, if we could all do this would help? It's something we can all kind of a call to action with?
I think that's it. I mean, to me, I really do. I believe in the power of social media. I believe in the power of social influence and really causing a shift in perspective for people. And this is a simple one. This is an easy one. There's no government. You don't have to log into the WTTA page. You don't have to, go to the gun shop. This is a really, really simple, easy way. Sarah's talked a lot about this liberty lifestyle, right? And just freedom loving. And that is such a key component to the Second Amendment community. And to me, that means responsibility and accountability, right? I always say like the rights come with responsibilities. Well, here's your opportunity, right? NSSF just launched gunownerscare.org. I don't know, I haven't got my packet yet. I went there, I paid my $20. I joined gunownerscare.org. I don't know that I needed to do that, right? I've been saying gun owners care and rights and responsibilities for a long time, but I want to support NSSF and their mission and the fact that they're saying to the world, gun owners care, right? And it's literal, it's expressive. It could be seen as you could attack it from the outside and say, oh, it's self-serving. You're saying gun owners care, but what are you really doing? And that takes me back to Diana Muller and DC Project and DC Project Foundation's movement of education, right? And the idea that hashtag doing something. The gun community has been doing things. We are doing things. WTTA, holdmyguns.org, Don't Lie for the Other Guy, Kids Safe Foundation, Eddie Eagle. There are all kinds of things that Project Child Safe that the gun community has been doing. Well, here's another one. We want to cause a pause. We want to acknowledge the fact that access to lethal means in a time of crisis leads to death that can be avoided. And I can't imagine, I get this whole thing of, there was a friend of mine, a mentor of mine in the training community who took his life with a firearm, very bad cancer diagnosis, prognosis wasn't good. You can put a bunch of things around it. Didn't want to suffer, didn't want people around him to suffer, didn't want to be seen, kind of in those last days as we, all of those things that led to that moment. We can all rationalize that. We can all talk about it. But I wanted to have one more conversation with him. I'll bet he had more wisdom he could share with me as an instructor or hundreds of other potential instructors, a few more articles in the magazine, a couple more TV episodes that he could have contributed and really made a difference and continued doing what he was proud to have done, for 30 or 40 years before he took his own life. And the whole ego thing that comes into that, where a lot of people around him say, no, that's how he wanted to go. That was the choice he made. Who are we to second guess that? I'm here raising my hand saying I'll second guess it. I wish that he would have contributed more, and I think he had more to contribute. And if there would have been a pause there, if there would have been a conversation there, and if he maybe even knew that our community wasn't going to tolerate it, wasn't going to rationalize it, wasn't in the aftermath of it going to say, hey, that was his choice, I'm okay with it, maybe that wouldn't have happened. So to me, taking that picture of the challenge coin, taking the picture of your family next to the gun safe, taking the picture of, whatever it is that you're using with hashtag cause a pause is what's going to help create that change.
Yeah. I've been reading, there's some amazing stories being told in the side chat about loss and all of that. And it's one of those things where, I don't think people realize that you don't have to be directly affected by a suicide. If someone you love is affected by a suicide, then ultimately you are affected. And there's a lot of things that you have to understand that, we want to try to provide an open arena for anyone to feel comfortable and in this world to talk about their problems. But it's also talking to people around you also saying, look, I know that you're not in that dark place, but if you know someone in a dark place, it might not be in our community, that might not know that there's a big outreach program going from the gun community. Say, hey, look, if you ever see anyone, please reach out to them, because if you're affected by someone, then I'm affected because I love you as well. So the web of mental health and is a very, very big web that everyone is kind of connected through somehow, some way. And I love the fact that one of the things that I do love is what Sedini said when he first started Walk the Talk America. He said, I wanted to be able to talk about mental health as if it's the common cold. And I love the fact that we're starting to get to that point, through both of your organizations, but it's starting to be able to be talked about, especially within our culture and our community, that it's not this ugly, dirty word. It's understanding that, look, this is something in our community for some reason, maybe because of the large veteran population within the gun culture, but it is something that has affected, because we all know the numbers that 66% of all deaths by firearm are suicides. And so people say, well, what does it matter? Well, if we can eliminate that number or cut that in half, then we're talking about a major statistical drop in firearm deaths. And that's huge for the political thing of things. But for the human side of things, if we can cut suicides down, that just means that there's more of us living, and we live to tell the next story, because then they've walked through that door and they've lived to see another day. They help the next person and pay it forward. And that's really where it comes together, is when people are willing to help each other and say, look, I've been down that road before. I've been in that dark place, and it's okay. You're going to make it through tomorrow. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be next week, but next month, next year, life's going to get better. And look forward. And what Clover was saying, give them something positive to think about. Hey, you're up for a promotion, or didn't you just get a new car, or, didn't your daughter just start a new college or something? Give them something to be happy about, because that might be to where tomorrow is a better day. And I think that it's a beautiful thing. So what I want to do real quick is kind of start sweeping the floor a little bit. And I want to bring in Sarah real quick and say, we haven't really talked Hold My Guns a whole lot, but I'm going to give you a couple minutes to talk about Hold My Guns. And first of all, congratulations on finally getting your nonprofit status officially. I think that was maybe right after SHOT Show or Ed SHOT Show. But give everybody an idea. I'm going to start spamming the links out in the chat real quick. So I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to talk about Hold My Guns and all that stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, we applied for our 501c3, but as you guys know, it can take a little bit of time, and we actually got it pretty quickly. But we applied in September, I believe, and we got it in December. I guess it was December. No. I'm messing that up, guys. Sorry, strike that. We applied for it in December, and we got it the last day of SHOT Show. So it was actually pretty fast. I forget what other deadline I was putting in my. It's a long day. But anyway, yes, we have our 501c3 officially, and it's really exciting because what that does is it opens doors. When you are officially a nonprofit, then you can partner with different organizations. You can, there's a lot of benefits to being a 501c3. You can just even have access to great software that you couldn't if you weren't a 501c3. So little things like that. We're excited, but even bigger than that, it shows that we're serious about what we're doing. We're looking to launch in May. We have a number of gun shops. We're at the point now where we have, I think we're in 12 different states now, where there'll be a launch, and some of them have multiple shops. So what we're looking at doing is creating in the different areas to have like launch parties and that kind of a thing. So if we have a concentrated area, then we might, do a campaign in that area. iHeartRadio's reached out to us. I was interviewed by iHeartRadio at SHOT Show, and they're interested in helping with some campaigns. So there's also a lot of opportunities. Today I was talking to a holster company that's interested in helping with one of our launches. So, if you have products that are in a gun shop, or if you know of a gun shop that you really love and your products sell well, you might reach out to us and say, hey, I want to support if you guys do a Hold My Guns location here. Let's do a launch party, and I'll have a display, and we'll sponsor the food or something like that. So there are many different opportunities for people to participate in their own way. And I'm just excited about that. We've had folks from all different sectors, not just the firearms community, to reach out and say, how can we help you with your launches? So look for that in May. We're still taking applications for interested in FFLs who want to be storage partners. For those of you who don't know, I didn't really say what we are, but Hold My Guns is a firearms storage. That's our primary initiative, is to store firearms in gun shops across the United States. We're not an FFL, but we are basically a referral service that can help refer to gun shops who are utilizing the program that we designed for firearm storage. And it's based on a consignment return model. So that allows us to operate in gun shops. So that's pretty cool. And the other component of what we're doing is education, and just to kind of echo a little bit what Clover was saying a moment ago about creating positive experiences. What we want to do is in the gun shops where we're operating to bring in programs that are enriching to the community and to really create an environment where a gun shop can essentially be a community hub. And so what I envision is, some of the comments in the chat tonight, talk about different reasons why people have become depressed or they have taken their own lives, and not all of it's, some of it's impulsive, but sometimes it seems like people have a lot going on. And so to have things like financial seminars meeting in a gun shop, that's a reason why people can become very upset and depressed, because their finances are in a bad shape and they know that their family's depending on them, and maybe they just lost a job and they feel like they have no hope. There's no stigma to say, hey, I'm going to go to the gun shop because there's a great local credit repair place, or there's giving a talk at my gun shop, or there's going to be a community job fair at my local gun shop. I want to check that out. But if you say like, oh, the welfare office is throwing an event this weekend, I should probably check it out. Like, people are like, are you okay? It can be embarrassing, even though people have to do it, in some situations. But what we want to do is to really uplift the gun shops, because they have the space, they have classrooms, they have parking lots where you can throw a tent and have a nice barbecue. And again, that liberty-based lifestyle of we're all in this together. Our lives have many different components. How can we help each other? And then from there, creating that positive idea of community, we can put up sign-up sheets where we're working with communities to say, hey, we're going to do a food bank day. Will you help us? Will you help hand out food? We're going to meet up this Saturday, and you have a sign-up sheet in the gun shop. So you're not just keeping it in-house, but you're basically being a beacon to the rest of the world, saying we're responsible people. We care about firearms. We care about life. We care about our communities, and we're all in this together. So that's like the bigger vision that I have for Hold My Guns. Is, storage is a really important component, but how can we really get that lifestyle out there, and what does that mean? And when you create that kind of camaraderie, it's a powerful thing. And I like to, again, when you look at a lot of the people who are pushing for legislation, a lot of times they're really just mad people that just want to take rights away from people. And that is not what we are all about in the gun community. We're about helping people out and protecting things that we love. So anyway, I know I just talked your ear off. I'm super excited about it. And so we're looking to launch in May, and we'll be giving updates about that soon. So it was great to see both of you guys, actually all three of you guys. At I see the logo up there for Clover, but I have to say it was great to go to SHOT Show and to see you guys there. And I felt that when I went. It was my first year going, so it was just larger than life. But when I walked in, I was like, wow, like this place is happy. This is a place where I wish that people outside of the gun community could just get a glimpse of this, because I don't think they realize what a positive environment it really is. And I want to bring that to gun shops. So,
and I'm so happy for you guys. And I know you've worked your tails off. You and Genevieve have really just put in a lot of work, but it's just nice to see kind of everything come to fruition. And in a few months, it's going to be real. I mean, it's real in a couple of months.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah.
It's awesome. So congratulations. Before I let Rob kind of be the closer, I want to bring Clover in and say, do you have anything that you want to ask or comment on before we bring Rob in?
No, I don't have anything. I'll just say, it's been a great conversation, and have really enjoyed Rob and Sarah. And, I think it's no surprise, fully support what both of them do, and suggest that everybody out there listening look into both of these organizations and get involved. I mean, Sarah said it a few times, Rob said it, you said it, Ghost. This really is a community and a culture effort. It has to be. There's no one organization, there's certainly no one person, and there's not even one organization that can affect change like we all can affect if we're just willing to work together.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Rob, bring it home. Bring up, if you want to talk more about Cause a Pause, Walk the Talk America, whatever you want, go ahead and let people know what you need them to know.
Yeah, so once I get my phone fixed, I'll be back on Instagram. We'll figure that out. Maybe I have to go to this job tomorrow, but I'm sure a lot of stuff's going to go through on the Facebook, this and that. Mike's actually texting me right now. He can't figure out how Instagram works. I'm going to help him. So if you looked at the first Cause a Pause video at the Walk the Talk America, apparently it's not cropped right. We'll get that fixed in a minute. And then I'll be sure to update that. But really, to me, again, this is a grassroots voluntary program. I think that's what's so important to remind people of, is that, as Sarah alluded to, there are people who will legislate their version of responsibility or their vision of responsibility upon us if we don't take responsibility ourselves, and it's not about being one of the, boogers going out there or whatever with the Hawaiian shirts and making memes and we're going to take over the world. How about we just be part of the world, be a responsible part of the world, show that gun owners care, show that we can do the right thing. And is Virginia bad? Yeah, Virginia's bad. Is New York bad? California's bad? Sure. Overwhelmingly in the last 30, 40 years, we've been gaining ground, certainly at the federal level. We've got some big fights coming up at the local level, but this is one of the ways we win, is we are better people. We are more responsible. We are accountable. We will acknowledge the failures that we have in our community and we'll address them. Last weekend, I was down in Florida with Toddler Pincus. We went to the Freedom Expo at Shooter's World in Orlando. I spoke there with a bunch of great people. Left there, went to the Florida Carry event that they had in a state park. Hundreds of people, thousands of people maybe throughout the day go walk around the state park while the Florida Carry event was going on. Completely peaceful, all cool, good speakers, good messages there. There's a fight in Florida, believe it or not. We just had a bill die, not make it to the governor's desk, but we're going to have continuing fights at the state level that we need to be prepared to deal with, in the legislative halls, maybe in the courtrooms. But I think socially, right, in the culture, we can be bigger and better than those who would take away our rights by exercising our rights proudly, not with masks on, not looking like, where we want a war, but looking like we understand there is a culture war going on and we can win it through culture and through influence and through demonstration. And hashtag Cause a Pause is one way that people can do that. You can go to WTTA.org. I'm also the executive vice president of Second Amendment Organization. You can go to 2AO.org and learn about grassroots advocacy and how to be a more articulate, educated gun rights advocate, locally in the coffee shop, at work, things like that. And then obviously all the stuff I do at Personal Defense Network. I'm getting ready to kick off my tour. And as I travel around the country this year, I will have the bands, I will have the WTTA information, and I'll be encouraging people to, in the classes and then when they get home afterwards, take those pictures and post them to social media so that we can, cause a pause for people that are in crisis. And maybe that person is going to be you or me, in the future. Plan ahead.
Yeah. I can't say it enough. Thank you to both of you for what y'all are doing for not just our community, but for, everyone, whether you're a gun person or not. Like I said, and what Charles out there said, this is a larger issue than the gun community. Absolutely. We've been talking about that for the last hour and a half, that this is a much bigger issue than just a gun. It just happens to be that we're in the gun community. So that's kind of where we're laying down, or you guys are laying down your roots. Real quick before we get out of here, Mad Sexy says, Ghost, given your background with bringing the service, what would you look for to see if someone may need help? I mean, it may be as simple as something as if you're close enough to someone's personality, if you're close, you can tell a personality change. You can tell if they're really, outgoing and talkative, and then for a couple, 3 days, they don't even say anything, or, they don't answer text back, or it's something as simple as they don't seem to smile as much as they used to. Something very simple. It doesn't have to be the dire straits of sitting in a dark room and locking themselves out from the world. It could be something as simple as a personality trait change. And if you are aware of that, then it may not be anything big, but it doesn't hurt to say, hey, I noticed that, you're not laughing as much. Is everything okay? And it might not be a suicide type situation, but we're trying to prevent it even getting to that point. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes, a preemptive strike is saying, hey, everything okay? I've seen that you kind of been a little off. So I would say the first thing that I look for personally, and Rob and Sarah and Clover, you might have something different, but I look for maybe something in the personality, maybe a little more somber. They kind of shut themselves off. They stay away from, if they're real active in social media, and then for 2 or 3 days, they've just disappeared. Something might have happened, and it might not be anything, but it might be worthwhile to reach out and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a few days. Is everything okay? Just want to check in and all that. Let's just try to cut it off before it gets to that point. My second point.
So my phone is really dead. You don't have to reach out.
Yeah. Likely story. Yeah.
And for you, here's the thing: if you're not on social media in some way for more than 2 or 3 days, something is wrong.
Something's wrong.
My second point is I want to say is it's a beautiful thing, and this is just an example of two organizations putting away their own separate goals to reach a common goal that they share. And this needs to happen more often. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it needs to be more prevalent. And if you're out there and you're involved in an organization, get a hold of Rob, get a hold of Sarah, and partner up with them. And the more people that we can get behind a movement to say, look, we're taking care of our own, we're here. This is what it's all about, is a community. Be a community. There was a question out there. I don't know if it was directed towards Rob or Sarah, but G23 says, can we get your email from you so he can talk about his local gun stores? So before we go, Rob and Sarah both, if you want to publicly, do you have an email that you want to give to people they can contact you with?
Yeah, Rob at icetraining.us is my common one. Rob at icetraining.us, or just any private message through any of the social media, as soon as my phone works, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you can find me through any of those. It'll get to me. If you go through WTTA, it'll get to me or Mike, and we'll get back with you guys. And again, as far as like community stuff goes, the other thing I'll throw out there is the 2A rally coming up in October. I think Sarah's going to be there this year, and we're going to have another slate of a couple dozen, maybe as many as 30 speakers talking about Second Amendment issues in Washington, D.C. on October 24th. And I've noticed, there's a lot more rallying going on this year all around. So I'm hoping that that'll work as a feeder to get a few thousand, 5,000, maybe 10,000 people in Washington, D.C. in October.
And I know that for you, when you guys did the initial 2A rally last year, that was kind of the idea. It wasn't to be about this one rally, but what's next? And it has worked. What's next is everyone's doing rallies.
Yeah, it's been great to see so many people doing it. And traditionally our community doesn't do rallies. That was what a lot of my mentors, a lot of the people that, the generation before me, the leaders in the community, the Second Amendment rights community, all were horrified in September when we announced we were doing this rally, that we don't do rallies. It's not how we do. And they're going to compare us to the Million Mom March and all that. And, I disagreed, and we pulled it off. We had a great rally. There have been a bunch of other great rallies around the country. I don't know, whether how much those two things are connected, but it certainly seems like there's a lot of people using this logo, and people who were involved in the DC 2A rally now hosting things locally. Cheryl Todd's got one coming up in Arizona. She's going to be involved again with this one that we're doing in DC. But I'm really excited to see our community again. There you go, proudly. Being gun owners, showing up the way you dress every day. If you can legally carry a gun, carry a gun. If you can't legally carry a gun, whether it was the people in Richmond who, obeyed the law inside the fence and didn't carry, for those of us who are in DC. But, again, I think it's important that we're out there as American citizens, proud to be gun owners. Leave the masks at home, or, stay in your basement if that's what you're into. Get out there and be proud and be everyday Americans that also happen to be gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Sarah,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, go ahead and bring it on home.
Sure. If anyone can reach out to us, we have multiple ways to do that. You can find us on Facebook at holdmyguns.org, Instagram, holdmyguns.org, Twitter, holdmyguns.org. So you can send messages on any of those platforms, and you can get to us. There's a contact form at holdmyguns.org that you can reach us, or you can email us at info@holdmyguns.org. And yeah, to answer your question, gun shops will be interested in stuff that we're doing with Hold My Guns, but also with Walk the Talk America. So it's, again, like any time that we can just have opportunities for outreach and to help get the word out is great. And gun shops have things that they're working on too. And we're excited to know what community efforts that they're involved with, so that we can cross promote that and cheer for people as they come up with ideas that are relevant to their communities. Communities have different things that are going on that, that are very relevant, and that maybe some things happen in their community that they want to get support for, and we're all in it together. And I just loved Rob's point, like, hey, you can sit in your basement if you want. Rallies aren't for everybody, but neither is, doing community event type things. And the point is, like, everybody though does have something that they can connect with. And so rather than just sitting around saying, oh, we don't do this or we don't do that, it's like, well, what do you do and how can we support you in that? Because at the end of the day, we care about people, and we want to have an environment where people feel comfortable in doing things that they do, and having a lifestyle that is meaningful to them. So that's where we're at. We're all in it together. So it's been fun to talk about this tonight. I could talk about it all the time.
I know. Yeah.
It's been a good
It's one
conversation.
of those things where we make fun of sometimes the keyboard commandos and living in mom's basement, and it's all in jest for the most part. But like you said, not everyone is social. I mean, there are people that are very socially awkward, and that's okay. It's nothing wrong with that.
Some of my kids play video games online, and they have real friends online that they message. And like what you were saying about being familiar with people's baseline, so that when you know that something's off, my kids, they'll be like, "Hey, someone hasn't been on our usual game. I think I'm going to message them. What do you think, Mom?" Yes, please do that. So, whatever community you're involved with, we can all say, well, that's not mine, but you know what? It means something to someone. And so we can always get behind that and support it. So, yep.
And even the ones that are socially awkward, that aren't going to go to a rally, that aren't going to go and be a part of their community, the gun shop or whatever. But if they're on social media, they can share, they can create artwork, they can do pictures on Instagram, they can do a lot of things to promote these different organizations and different movements that they may not want to get directly involved in a personal way out in public, but that's just as important as a share on social media or a post on social media about different organizations, because that is in turn creating the community even more and creating that conversation, which I think we all agree that conversation is what it's all about. I want to send a quick shout out to Mandatory Carry. He told me not to mention this, but I'm going to anyways. Before the show even started, he sent a super chat of $20, and so he wanted me to share it. So $10 will be going to Walk the Talk America, and $10 will be going to holdmyguns.org.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And guys, it's one of those things where every little bit helps. And $1 here and $1 there, a share here, a like here, mention here, a flyer put in a gun store here means the world when you're trying to get the word out. And so thank you for Rob and Sarah and Clover for being here. I appreciate you guys very, very much, and thank you for all that you're doing. If you're watching live, thank you. It was a great conversation on the chat. I wish if you're watching a replay on YouTube, the chat itself was phenomenal. So thank you to everybody out there who had shared some of their stories and all that. It's a beautiful thing. If you're listening to it in podcast form and you have a story that you want to share, use the comment section, and we would make sure that we'll get those stories to Sarah or to Rob and maybe get on their websites or whatever. Please use the hashtag Cause a Pause. Whether it's like Rob said, doing a video, taking a picture, doing something, anything to help promote pausing for a reason to live. That's the biggest thing. Everyone has something that they can live for. And if we start stressing that tomorrow is going to be a better day, next week's going to be a better week, next month's going to be a better month, maybe we can start getting over this hurdle and say, look, we're all here to help. So thank you guys once again for coming on. I appreciate you guys. Clover, thanks for always coming in and helping out. Clover, I love Clover because Clover knows when I bring in special guests like these, he's going to take a back seat, and I love that about him. But he also kind of manages the chat for me as well. So it's a beautiful thing, and thank you for being a good friend this past week. To all three of you guys reached out to me, and it means the world to me. And thank you so much. And guys, we will see you next week, and we're going to have a couple special guests coming up next week as well. So thank you. Go check out walkthetalkamerica.org and holdmyguns.org. Thank you so much for watching. Semper Fi.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.